Good to see you, Oriane.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, happy to have this conversation. A bit of background for the listeners. I've seen you being quite active on LinkedIn, and I wanted to reach you out for that reason to join me in my podcast because I believe that you have quite powerful presence and then message to deliver to people. So I'm happy to have this talk with you. But I
Thank you
think
so
we
much for
can.
inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we can start with a bit of your background, what you're doing at the moment. I will still have some more detailed questions about it, but if you have to say in few sentences, who are you and how did you get to this point in your life and in your business? How would you describe it?
Well, I'm French, living in Berlin since the last 13 years, and since September 2022, I'm helping women to build their own businesses with an approach to based on self-development and a lot of mindset work. And at some point, the goal is to add a bit of spirituality in the mix. Yeah. I'm a single mom since December 21. And yeah, and I'm freelancer, building an agency on the side. So I have two things working at the same time.
Okay, plenty of things on your table then. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
And I saw that you describe yourself as a job hopper, that previously you were working as an employee for different companies. And what led to the fact that now you wanted to become an entrepreneur and you weren't fully satisfied with this changing employers from place to place? How did that come to the point to become an entrepreneur?
Well, actually, I always wanted to have my own company. So when I finished my studies, I finished my master when I was 21 or 22. And I already had the idea since I was 17, wanting to do my own businesses because I saw my mom being dependent on my father, and then my parents divorced, and then we were touched by poverty. Not the hardcore poverty, but still we struggled. And so I made a promise to myself that I would never be dependent on the system, like on a man or on a job. But as it is, society tells you that the 9 to 5 is the safer and the security path. So after my study, I didn't feel comfortable to launch my business right away because I had a credit loan, like a student loan. And I felt, okay, I'm 22. Who's going to take me seriously? And I wanted to gather experience first. And then I started working. And after 6 or 7 months, I lost my first job. And it was a very bad experience for my self-esteem because I always knew what I wanted to do. And all of a sudden I didn't know anymore. And I was like, I'm a failure. Everyone in my prom is in a big job and they're staying there. And then the job hopping started. Then I went away I was in online marketing. And so I went into consulting, my first consulting job. There, I lost the job again after 1.5 years because of economic situation. And even if it's not your fault, you're still asking yourself, like, did I do something wrong? Then I started in another company in a fitness industry. And I was bullied by my former boss. But today I see it like this. No, I saw it like this during the time that it was bullying. And now today I just tell myself that he didn't know how to do it better. And he was doing his best the way he can. It's very hard for me to say that out loud because sometimes I'm still a bit angry at what happens, but I try to forgive it and to just move on. And there, the idea of launching my business became always more present. And I think it was at that time when I didn't renew my contract with them that I decided to start running coaching. So that was my first business, not registered, but it was my first try. I didn't succeed because I was not disciplined enough. I was trying to get myself back in a mindset way because the 1 year of bullying was quite hard on me. So I was just trying to reconstruct myself. But then I also had 40,000 euros of debt. So I also had to think about paying them back. And so I went again into consulting. And that job I loved, even if we were working 100 hours per week, being available on weekends, on vacation. It was a bit of adrenaline and the thrill and everything. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a partner at this firm. I'm going to be the first woman to be a partner. I want to be the first woman to be a director so fast, blah, blah, blah. And then I got pregnant.
Right.
And so having this kind of rhythm while being pregnant, you can't. And still I was like, okay, I want to be the first woman in this company to be, to go through the pregnancy and show other women that it's possible to have this career and a baby. And then I did it. And the whole maternity leave, I was away for a year. I was also thinking, I'm coming back. I'm going to show that it's possible. My boss was really, we're going to do this. We're going to try to find a way. But then I trusted my boss, but I didn't trust the system in which we were evolving. So the company, as much as they would have or might have helped me to create an environment where it was possible for me to have a career and the baby, I didn't believe enough that it was possible that they could give it to me. So I quit in October. I was supposed to come back in November and I quit it in October at the end of my
We're talking about
leave.
last year.
Yeah.
Or...
No, then
Okay.
I started, that's not on my LinkedIn, but then I started working for wine company. But on the same side, I was building my own wine business. So I started building my wine business during my maternity leave. That was the last click I had because it's a bit messy, my story, right? How I'm telling it right now. But when I was in the consulting, it was like, okay, you're turning 30 in 2 years. It's like these people were smoking and are like, oh, I need to stop smoking before 30. For me, it was, you need to get your finance in check before you turn 30. So it took me 1 year to pay back this 40,000 euros. And I'm very grateful for my job, for the bonuses we get in this company, or we got at that time. But because that helped me and my salary helped me to pay back my debt so fast, and also hardcore budgeting. And so I was debt free. And then during my maternity leave, I was like, I don't want to leave my little baby here at home and go work. And so I was like, I need to get a business up and running now. And so I started my wine business during the maternity leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
and
quite,
that's the end.
that's quite multifaceted journey. And it sounds like it has required a lot of perseverance and mental toughness along the way from multiple perspectives.
I felt like a failure so many times because I always say that my CV looks like a Gruyere, this French cheese that has hole in everything. Because in France at that time when I was younger, I don't know how it is now because I've been away for so long, but it was, if you don't have a career and if you can't explain holes in your resume, it's bad and you failed. And then I was like, okay, I've been 7 months there, 1.5 years here, 1 year there, 3-4 years there. And I was like, how do I explain that? And of course, it's now looking back, and as I did for each interviews where I got the job, it's the story you tell to the people. How you put it
Exactly.
in the packaging you put around your story is what will help you. But inside, I was crushed. I felt like
I can understand that. And I also want to speak to that a little bit because luckily, I think, at least in some part of the world, we're understanding the change of it. Let's look at the rise of Silicon Valley, for example. I think the average employment there is 18 months and then you move on to another company. So it's already, by definition, if you work in Silicon Valley, it's job hopping, as you would say. But we still have these old ways of thinking. Also, I can see that in Finland, Like you go to your first workplace, then you stay there for a long time, and if you didn't, there's something wrong with you. But then when I think about myself, ever since I was younger, I always thought that maximum 2 years in any of the companies that I was working, because I needed the sort of stimulation that something has to change. And I can
Mm.
see it in so many people's that when they cross a certain threshold of years that they spend in one of the companies, it's very, very, very difficult to leave after that. And I never wanted to
Yeah.
find myself in this kind of position.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's also when I used to package it, I was always saying, if I'm honest with myself, every time the job came to an end, I was feeling it's because I already had given up on it a few weeks or months before, that because I was stagnating and I was like, okay, I'm not at the right place, but I didn't have the courage to leave and find something, or to I'm not that kind of person who can look for a job while I'm in a job already. It's
Okay.
I can't. Some people are very good at it. I can't. And so I need to be out of a job to be able to regain this creativity and this, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a new breath, like because
Yeah.
something is draining so much energy that I cannot show up in an interview being my best self because I have this draining energy or this vampire on the side. And so if I'm honest with myself, so many times I was like, okay, I don't want to do this job anymore. And then I stopped being as efficient as in the first months or weeks. And then for the jobs I lost. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. And when you were explaining your career up to this point, I can sense that's what it also says in your business these days. It's about female empowerment, and you said you wanted to be the first woman to do this. And just recently, I finished a book. I don't know if you know who Ginny Rometty is. She's a
Mm-mm.
former CEO of IBM, and she was the first female CEO of the company, and she ran it for 10 years until 2020. And she's now written a book. It published like a couple of weeks ago called Good Power. And I listened to
Oh, I
that,
need
and
to
she
read that.
also, yeah, I think it could be interesting too, because she also talks about, because she comes from a technology world and she started as an engineer. So ever since she was studying as a young woman, she was the only woman in those computer science class. And then every step along the way, to some extent, she had to prove that she's more than capable compared to men in like environment that's mainly consisting of men. And then she was able to get the position as a CEO later on in her life. I think she spent like 40 years at IBM or close to that. And
Wow.
she talked a lot about the importance of diversity and also women empowerment. And but to her, they made the conscious decision with the husband that they would never have kids. But also what she wanted to emphasize, that it's even when you have kids, it is totally possible to become one of the C-level executives of global tech giants. So I believe it could be interesting read for you too. And what
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, go ahead. There's a little bit of lag I can sense here, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
You wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I was gonna go to from that as a segue to what you're saying in your LinkedIn profile. When it comes to your business, you're using the sentence that I help aspiring female founders get rid of negative self-talk, shift into the badass CEO identity you need, and launch your business so you can smash your goals and become financially independent. And if
Mm.
I'm not mistaken, this sentence talks to you a few years back. Am I correct?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because I became financially dependent when I got pregnant after my pregnancy because I was not working for a year and it was a choice not to go to work. Um, but nobody can nobody can see in the future. So I didn't know at that time that I was going to be a single mom 2 years down the road, or 3 years. No, 2 years down the road. Okay, I knew it was going to be difficult when I gave birth. I felt disconnected from my ex-partner. And I think at that time, I thought it was postpartum depression. I also had it. So you start to rationalize. But I had left my high-paying job, so I was not earning as much as we used to be to earn the same. And at that point when I started this job in this wine business, for this wine brand, I was not even earning half what I was earning before. So how do I put that? So all of a sudden, when everything starts to be bad or toxic, you realize that you don't have the same mean to keep up a lifestyle for yourself, but also for a little kid. And kids cost so much. So
Certainly.
it's yeah. And at that time, I felt, okay, it's impossible. So I didn't give up right away. I started working on myself. I went to therapy because I thought I was the problem. I thought I was the crazy one. Nobody is crazy, but you always have two people in a relationship, and everybody has his responsibility for what's happening. So I started working on myself. And all the time of this therapy, the goal was, okay, I want to reconnect with my partner, blah, blah, blah. And then at some point, I realized that it was not going to happen. And at some point, it's a bit of metaphoric, but at some point, my mom always say that. I'm going to try not to cry, but when I called her after, she was like, you just took the decision that at some point you're dying in the relationship, or you have to save yourself, whatever happens with the saving yourself. So I took this jump. I lost my job on Monday from this company, and on a Friday, I separated from my ex. And for me, it was, okay, what am I, like this first week when I'm a bit of very spiritual, not a bit, but very I have a very faith in the universe and everything. And in that week, it was funny because on the Monday I had seen my shaman. Yes, I have a shaman. I'm saying it publicly. I saw my shaman on Monday. Right after that, I lost my job. And on Friday, I separated, but I felt so empowered that week. And sometimes when I feel down, I remember that week. I try to remember how I felt that week because I felt free. I felt so free, even if I knew that it's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. And that's what I want. I don't want any woman. After that, I was like, so many women are stuck in a relationship or in abusive relationship, physically abusive relationship. And I was thinking how many are not leaving because they don't have the financial means, because very often it comes down to the money. It's because they have 2, 3, 1 kid, and they cannot imagine sustain themselves and the kids on their own. And it was funny because last time I had a comment in my section because I was addressing this in a post, and the person was like, yeah, but you're preying on women that it's going to be bad with a man, and I'm not doing it. It's just, even if you're married to the love of your life and I don't know, he dies in a car accident and he was the one in charge of the financial side. I don't want to be the pessimist and everything, but I mean, it's important to stand on your 2 feet, and then you're 2 person in a partnership, 2 whole people that both stand on their 2 feet. And so, of course, you will always have a codependency because when you have kids, you still rely on your partner and everything. But having this independence is for me key to have a fulfilling life, and a life where you don't have to worry, okay, tomorrow, what happened if? And I don't know if it's answer your question, but yeah, this is why I decided to do it. And I've seen my mom struggle, so for me it was enough drive to do it.
There's so many branches that I could hold on and continue conversations from. Where would I like? I think one of the common things in our society is like, how would I put it? Because back in the days, we used as a species, we used to be living in an environment of tribes, and whenever we were, let's say, raising a kid or having any struggles, we were there with the family, with neighbors, with uncles, with everybody in the community in support. But in the modern day, especially in the Western societies, we have, like what you're saying there, when it comes to the independence, financial or otherwise, it's important to understand, first of all, your capabilities, that everybody is able to do it if they put their mind to it. And if you're, let's say, like more autonomous, then you can become the better, because we cannot always rely on the network. As you said, something can happen in any second. But one of the interesting things to me is when I look at my own journey in the past, let's say 5 years, I've become more and more interested in the spiritual side of the world. And when it comes to meditation, when it comes to Eastern philosophies, and what is the purpose of all of this? Why are we so disconnected from the nature, and what kind of effect does that have on us? How, so what does spirituality and meditation and these practices, what does it mean to you? And when did you become interested? Has it always been there, or?
I've always believe in something bigger than we have. I don't call it God. I lost this kind of faith early when I was 17, 18. But I live in a family where my mom is an astrologer. Not only, but she has done certificate for that. Like she learned that. And we have a tarot reader in our family since my grandmother was 23 or something. And she's 80 now, and this woman is still living, and we still go to her from time to time. And yeah, like spirituality plays a huge role in my life. I think I put this faith in the spirituality in the universe. And since then, I've been able to detach for so many things that have happened in my life that are bad or that are like difficult or traumatizing. And it comes down from, my grandfather comes from a tribe in Africa, in Guinea-Conakry. And like a tribe in the jungle. So when the colony came, they saw like the kids that were looking like 6 had to go to school. So he went to school and became a doctor and studied in Paris. And this is where he met my grandmother. And so long story short, my grandmother was 21, took one way ticket to Guinea to join my grandfather in Africa. And she was building villa. She was building houses so expats could come and live there. But one time, one of the, the construction sites, all of a sudden, she had fight with another woman from another tribe who was claiming that it was her parcel and that she had to build on it. And my grandmother didn't understand, but one day to the other, everything started to crash. Like everything was going wrong. And it was the time she was going back to France. So she went to this tarot reader. She was meeting with someone else, and she's like, go see this woman. And so like, people are going to think I'm crazy, but this is where my faith started, because this is what my grandmother told me. And then she went to this woman that she didn't know. And when she entered the room, she was like, oh, your clothes are made, this man there is a man bothering you, that he's making your clothes. So that was the first thing she said to this woman. And then I have always goosebumps when I explain it. And then my grandmother gave her a plan of the construction site. And this woman told her exactly where all these stuffs were that was causing bad vibes, bad energy. And
Oh, wow.
I know it sounds so crazy, and then my grandmother, so this woman has never been in Africa. She was never at the construction site of my grandmother. She didn't know all the people. And then when my grandmother came back to Africa, she went to the guy who was making her clothes that was in the same tribe as the woman causing the problems. And he showed her exactly where these little stuffs were hidden. And
Wow.
then my grandmother could continue the construction. And it sounds so silly and it sounds very like, oh, yeah, it's a story your grandmother told you. But this woman, I've seen her 3 times already. And I came into this room and she told me stuff that there is no reason, like there is no trace on it online or anything that she could know that it was what happened to me or to the people around me. And so that's why that was my moment where I was like, okay, this kind of people exist and I believe in it and it helps me sometimes when I'm really struggling and having really negative spiral and everything is bad. And I go to her or to my shaman. I feel so good after because I let it go and I let it go to something higher than me. And so that helps me like this. And other people have God and do prayers and everything. I talk with my spirit team.
Yeah, let's say that if we would have had this discussion 10 years ago or something like that, I would be rolling my eyes like, what is this? But nowadays I don't. It's different perspective that I have gained. And the as I said, like the more you read, the more you research, the more you talk to people, the more you travel and see different places, you start to understand things that are not so clear. I come from very tiny village in Finland, less than 5,000 people. And if you solely, as I know many do, if you just live your life here in this environment, it's not something that's gonna connect you to anything bigger apart from, unless you're religious here, it could be part of it because it's more or less playing in the same field. But just last year, I went to Bali for the second time in my life. And this time we were staying in a small local village in Bali. And one of the things that really stands out in there is that every day, in like most of the moments in their life, spirituality is present in one way or another. They do the blessings, they bless all the houses, people, even gyms and restaurants and all of that every day, I think twice a day. And whenever they have certain ceremonies with temples or different moments in a person's life, you have certain ceremony for that. So you can see that the spirituality is present everywhere. And something out of curiosity, we also went to see one of the palm readers, or healer palm reader. And one of the things that he said is that, which is correct, I think, to the majority of people who come from Western countries. He said that each one of us is like the spirituality and the spirit is instilled in each one of us already when we're in the womb. But if we're getting birth in a place that doesn't enhance the spiritual side of life, it will get oppressed in each individual. But it's still there, somewhere hidden. And to me, he said that, yeah, and because nothing in the environment that I was growing up in, there were no spiritual practices. You can call like certain baptisms and such, or confirmations or these kind of things, but nobody was really religious about it. It was just a habit, and it was just something that you do, but you didn't really believe in Christian God in this case that would bring this element. And then he said that to me, which is true in this case. Obviously, I went to him, but he said that like, but in the recent years, you have started to search for it and look for it and find certain things around you that can connect you to it. But that was an interesting thing that he said. And one of the things that I don't know if you know who Gabor Mate is famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was explaining this story that because he said that he because in the past 10, 15 years he's also organized these psychedelic retreats with ayahuasca for
Hmm.
his patients, and he wanted to organize one in the Amazons for a group of I think fellow psychologists or some other people, but he was one of the facilitators in it. But when he arrived on the side for in the first day, the shamans were like, something is a bit off, like we can't do this. Then they recognized that Gabor was carrying so much dark energy inside him that he was disturbing the whole energy field of rest of the
Wow.
participants. So he couldn't be there. They had to exclude him from the from these sessions
Wow.
because he's been dealing with like decades with people, traumatized people with addictions and all these kind of things, and he's collected it and he's now carrying all of that energy inside him, and they recognized him, so they had to separate him to go on another path of healing in this session. Which brings me the question, like,
That's
what
so
is,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, it's quite and it's, to me it's very curious how, because on like on a common level, I can, you can sense about a person, whether often when someone steps into, you can sense if you like or you don't like, but you can't really
Mm-mm.
tell what it is about it. So, but it's an energetic thing. But how these, some of
Yeah.
these people can actually read and make further distinctions on why is this the case. It's an interesting pattern to me. And
Yeah.
but one of the things that I wanted to ask you, like, have you looked into, or are you curious about? We might take a dangerous road here, but when it comes to psychedelic and their use in either spirituality or helping with the depression, anxiety, or even physical problems, is this something that you have researched or are curious about?
I haven't researched it, but I know that I would love to do a ayahuasca trip one day. But since I'm a bit paranoid, um, I wanted to do it. I found this woman that does it in the mountains in Spain, and it's only for two people. She does a retreat where only two people are coming, and I would do it with someone I know, because I've read too many things from women going into this kind of retreats and stuff that happens when they are away in their mind, and I don't
Yeah.
want to have other traumas added to mine. So, so yeah, I thought about it. Um, I never did it. And I have a lot of respect for that, because I'm always scared that also these people who taking LSD on festivals and everything, because they are looking for not for the, like the people I talked to, because I'm curious to know about it. The people I know that did it was really for the experience and spiritual, not being in touch with sources or anything, but there is a kind of spiritual thing behind it. But I'm always scared that, well, how do you know if you don't take too much and then you stay hanging? It's, maybe I don't know enough about it. I haven't researched that much because it's not my priority. It's not that it doesn't interest me that much to take this kind of things. But I thought about it. Yeah.
Do you understand the possibilities of it at least?
Yeah.
Like, I would
Yeah.
say
When
if,
I hear about the experience of ayahuasca, I'm like, give it to me. Like, I want to get rid of all my traumas. So please.
yeah, it's part of it. And I was recently also listening to a book where they were explaining these plant medicines. Ayahuasca was one of them, but also tobacco. And that was interesting to me because I had never understood tobacco as a medicine, actually, but they use it in some
Mm-mm.
indigenous cultures in North America and South America as well. And some of them were explaining that ayahuasca as a plant medicine is something that will reveal to you the traumas and what's been up, so you get more conscious about what's happening, what has happened in your life and what's happening at the moment and your connection. And then later on you can use tobacco as a healer, because now that you recognize it, then
Oh,
tobacco and the trip with it can help with the healing process itself. And it's but it's also a difficult discussion to go through, because for those reasons that you mentioned, when I was younger as well, when when people were using, mushrooms, LSD, whatever, it was always those people who wanted to get wasted anyway. I wanted to show off. It was never part of anything spiritual or rituals or any of that. So that's why I connected it to that kind of behavior as well. Before later on in
Mm-hmm.
my life, I realized this is not the case. You just have to have the correct setting, and you have to know what you're doing and for what reason you're doing it. And one of the books or documentaries I would recommend everybody to watch is How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It's on Netflix available as well, where he goes through these few different
How to change
psychedelics.
your
And
mind.
yeah, by
I have
Michael
to write it
Pollan.
down.
Yeah. And you can find it on Netflix. I think it was published last year, the documentary of it, and it's based on his book and experiences. He's a very smart guy, and he had his first experiences in this field in his 60s already. So he's had an open mind up until then, and even more open, I believe, afterwards.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to check it. I don't have Netflix
Yeah,
anymore, but I will find someone to take it from.
yeah, you will get a hold of it as well. No worries there. But it's definitely an interesting field to look up to, and it's been when it comes to psychedelics in the helps of treating depression, PTSD, and all this kind of things. It's resurfaced itself in the past 5 to 10 years. So now you're able to study it actually, and people start to understand the benefits of it.
Yeah, I haven't researched about that, so I cannot talk about it. But I heard that it's getting more and more momentum to heal also diseases. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good if
also
it goes
that.
in that direction. If it can help, it's
Yeah, but still a few questions about the spirituality side. I saw you had written also about the importance of meditation for people and for yourself as well. Is this something that you is your daily practice, or what is your relationship with meditation practice?
I wish my meditation practice is messy at the moment. I struggle a lot to have a daily practice because at the moment, to be honest, my day rules me more than I rule my day. So I struggle to, I have again, I used to have problems with my ears when I have too much stress. I have problems. I lose earrings from one side, and I see since a few days that it's coming back. And I know
Mm.
that now I really see it. And my stress level went up last week, and I don't sleep enough. And so I'm so exhausted in the evening. And so I have this feeling I'm constantly running after time. And I know Tim Ferriss says if you feel that you don't have time, you should meditate for 3 hours. I want to prioritize it again. The thing is, for me, what I've noticed is that 10 minutes don't do it anymore. If I just sit down and listen to this, calm. I use calm and seven mind, I think, in French. I use these apps, and these 10 minutes usually, like most of the time, don't do it. I need this kind of meditation where you have shamanic drums for half an hour, or what I did last time was with, I think, be natural sounds or something, where you
Yeah,
have, it's kind of, I call it psychedelic sounds because it's so weird.
yeah,
And I listened to that, and then you have these voices that started at the beginning, but then they say that somehow it's between the tunes and you don't notice it anymore. I need that kind of meditation to really go deep and feel that it did something to me. I had quite experience that were like, whoa, what happened? So that's why I'm a bit of, I could do it for 10 minutes. It might help because usually when I do it for 10 minutes every day, I don't notice how much it helps me, why I'm doing it. But when I don't have it anymore, I notice what it was doing. So maybe I really should just make it a priority when I wake up in the morning to just do it. But I'm always scared to sleep back in when I do it in the morning. So I really, at the moment, I used to do that in the morning and in the evening. And now I'm so tired that I'm so scared to sleep in that I don't do it at all. But that's not the way to go. So it's been a few weeks when I'm not meditating, and I think I should
okay.
go back to it. Yeah.
So, but you're using apps for guidance and then also for the music or the beats.
So I have apps for the guidance when I do a guided meditation. And then I have a friend who gave me a few years ago some sounds that are specific to if you want to have a positive mindset, or if you want to attract abundance, or if you want to be in a productive kind of way. So you prepare yourself for productive things. Oh, what I did to productivity is EFT tapping. Sorry, I'm just doing a bridge because I was thinking about it. And that's also a practice I started end of last year. And I have been consistent for like 60 days to see if it was really helping. I had the feeling it was helping me, but maybe it's also all in my head. And it's just like you tap, some
Yeah.
points of your, by saying affirmations. And I had some moments when I was doing it where I know it worked, the session, when all of a sudden I felt it opened in my chest. And this is when I know something got unlocked, like something was blocked and now it's free. And EFT
Oh,
tapping.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah. And it's really nice. I do it on YouTube with this guy named Tapping with Brad. And I love his videos. And it helped me so much. And I know it helped some friends of mine that I told them to do it when they were feeling stuck in some ways. And so that's something I want to go deeper in it. And I did the bridge with the meditation because I meditate before I do that to
Yeah.
really be at peace and with by myself. So that's when I would do the 10 minutes meditations. Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of the great spots that I find useful to do meditation is after heavy breath work session. I don't know if you've done those, like Wim Hof or the
Mm-mm.
Soma meditation. I can share you the link afterwards, because one of the things that it does to me, because
Yeah.
when you do these heavy inhales, heavy exhales, and then you hold your breath, and then you do it for a few rounds, and especially the Soma meditation, it's also got these beats and instructions and empowering messages and such. But then at some point, like when you reach those levels, then you take a big deep inhale, then you feel this kind of light going to your head. It's quite unique feeling. But when you do this heavy breath, you just, your mind has to go clear because you're focusing on the breath. There's no way that you
Yeah.
can focus on your problems or anything like that. And it eventually clears your mind. And what I find very useful when I do that, and then I do meditation after that, it's different state of mind from the beginning already. So
I would love to try
I
that. I heard about it, but then I read that you should do that with a practitioner. You shouldn't do that at home. And so I got scared and I never did. But it's something I would love to
and
try.
yeah, I think there's so those extreme ones that you probably would need some guidance or someone to look over you, but these are fairly simple. They can even be quite short practices that you can use, everybody can use. I think they, some cases it might be that it's not recommended, but it's just don't drive a car while you're doing it. That's
Yeah.
pretty much it. That's my recommendation. Yeah. But if
Okay.
we go back to your business a bit before we reach the finish, like what is your vision for this business that you're currently running, and what do you want to achieve with it?
My mission for now, until I reach this one, is to help over 1 million women to be financially independent. Sorry. And the idea behind Bonjour Mondays was born while I was evolving in my career in male-dominated fields. And I remember I was having a meeting with, I don't know how old you are. I'm 33, but I was 23 at that time. And he was 27 to 30 or something. So quite, you would think, on the same page about woman equality and all that stuff. And we went out of this meeting room, and one other colleagues came. It was only male in the consulting team. We were just two women. And then one of the guy came and he was like, "Oh, you were in a meeting with Oriane." And then the guy I was in a meeting with, made it as he would close his zipper from his trouser. And he was like, yeah. And I felt so humiliated that I thought, I hope I can change the world, the business world, in a way that if I have a daughter one day, she doesn't have to go through that.
I
And
hear
that
you.
was the beginning of wanting to work with women and wanting to make this world in a way more equal. And that's where it started. My business was not that idea at the beginning. It was an art project, and it turned out to be this. So it's
Okay,
always evolving.
interesting.
Um, but yeah, that was the beginning. And so my goal is to have 1 million women. And then when I reach that point, I'm going to see what's next. And the long-term vision is also to be a speaker, to have a broader impact than just my little site on the internet, and to have workshops and intervene in high schools and in college to
That's
bring this personal development into. I had that in my college in the first year, and I was one of the only one in my, like, a lot of people didn't like this class, and I loved it. I loved the woman that was teaching it, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. And then I forgot about it. And now when I think about it, I would love to go back to my school or in another college and everything just to teach that. Because I think there are so many women, when I think of myself when I was 20 or 18, all the insecurities you have, that you're, I don't say men don't have this kind of bad self-confidence. They just hide it better. They just like, we're just wired differently. I don't know if it's from the upbringing, because parents, and I see it on the playground, parents talk differently to girls than to boys. It's still like this, even
mm,
if we are aware of what it does in the long term, we still do it. So there is work on each side, on everyone to do. And I think would be really nice to go, because at what time does it change? When you're in high school and you have your crew of girls and boyfriends, like your group, you want what's best for your girlfriend or boyfriend. Like the guys, you are all together and you want what's best for your friends. But at some point, we arrived in business and we forgot about it. And then we think that it's normal what's happening. It's normal that a woman gets paid less than her counterpart that has the same diploma. It's normal that the guys are getting promoted 3 times faster than the woman, but they're doing half the job that the woman is doing. And I've experienced it. I talk from experience. It's not something I would say, oh, it's like this, because it's really heavy to say stuff like this. And I don't say it's all men, and I don't say it's, I just say that it happens, and it happens more than we think. And I don't want it for, I want the managers of tomorrow, so the kids that are now in high school or in business school or in lawyer school, I don't know. I want to sensibilize them that at some point something is going to change, and that they keep these ideas, like, look at your friend, you want what's best for her. So that men, I think this equality game is not only battle for women, it's something that we just do all together. And I love it when men are standing up for women, and in companies when a boss is going to say something and one of the colleagues is going to say, like, you don't say that. And when it's a man that says that to the boss, it has so much more weight than when a woman says, like, I felt humiliated when you said that. Yeah, just calm down. It was a joke. It happened to me,
yeah,
so I can relate to that. So
I can also recognize some of that behavior that I've witnessed in different workplaces, and it's very important and ambitious mission that you have for to reach 1 million people and empowerment, 1 million women, and empower them this way. I think it's great. And like one example that came to my mind, I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but this is just a couple of years back. I knew it's tragic comic that actually somebody can say that still in I know of a situation conversation working for American uh, tech giant, And in this conversation, there was a male manager and then a women employee. And there was some, like, she was explaining that she was feeling a little bit sad or down or whatever during that one day. And then the manager took her to the meeting, and then he seriously looked at her into the face and asked, "Are you sure it's not just that time of the month?" And this was the question that he actually asked in like modern times in a company that actually emphasizes like
Yeah.
diversity and equality and everything. Still, you can find certain individuals, and I couldn't
Yeah.
find, I couldn't realize if I'm angry or sad, or is it funny or is it ridiculous? What, how can it be? It's just a question, but it happens. And I believe that you're
It happens
like,
because
yeah,
everybody
and
does the best he can at the level he is or she is at the moment. And I had a friend a few years back. He was like, Oriane, I don't know what I'm bringing to the table because I was raised that I have to support my girlfriend, but now you guys can do it yourself. So what am I going to do? And he was
yeah,
27 and he just looked me blank in the eyes and was like, I don't know what to do. And I had ex-partners that also were saying stuff where I was offended and they were not understanding why it was offensive. And I think instead of going like, it's so bad what you did and criticism is not going to help to move the needle, it's just to take the
education,
people where they are and just educate. My
yeah.
former boss that I admire and I love, and I know that this is the really like a few months ago, it was like, if he calls me to come back, I know I'm not going to be able to say no, blah, blah, blah. And he told me when I got pregnant, I told him, and I felt like I felt the company when I got pregnant, really at the first start. Not, I was so happy to be pregnant, but on the other side, this guilt. No, it was not. Yeah, it was more guilt because I had this feeling I was letting down the company. And when I came to him and I lost my father, so for me, I I learn it by journaling, but I do transmit these father figures on older male bosses that I had. And he was one of them where I had this transfer of father figures. And for me, when I told him I was pregnant, he was so happy. I imagine my father would have been happy as he was when, you know, but he told me that is he said something along the line from, it's your, what is happening?
I think
Are you here?
sometimes it
Yeah.
blocks,
He
yeah,
was,
but
okay.
it will fix
He was
itself in
saying,
the end. Don't worry about it.
okay, no, it's my Siri got on. I don't know why. But,
Ah,
and he
okay.
told me, but that's not so bad because now I was about to cry, and so it's not so bad that I had this break. But and he said something along the line from, "It's your mission as a woman to be pregnant." And for me, when I came out of this moment, I was like, called my best friend, like, you don't know what happened. You don't know what he said to me, but how can you say it? If he would be Steve Jobs, it would be in the paper the right away, blah, 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 blah. But then at some point I realized he doesn't know better because he's an old school person that has 3 kids and a wonderful wife, and they found a rhythm, a balance that they found is good for them. And for me, like little feminist and wanting to fight everything, I was like, how can you say that to me? Because for me, it was degrading all all the work I had done in this company before to resume my job as a woman to be pregnant. But then after that, I was like, no, he didn't know better and he didn't mean it in a bad way. And it's just opening the discussion. Because, for example, another example was this person. When I got pregnant, I didn't want the company to know. So HR, because they asked me, are we allowed to tell? I was like, no, please no. My boss, like under the big boss, he was keeping the secret for way much longer than all the other people we knew at that time. But then on a Friday, we all had this company gathering where over 150 people are in the same call. And someone say like, yeah, this guy got married, blah, blah. And then the big boss was like, oh, but when we're at it, Oriane is pregnant. And just to make the bridge, why I think he didn't know better is, I know my boss, my direct boss, was like, "Oh, that was not a good thing to say." And 3 women came to him after and saying, like, "You shouldn't have said that. It's everybody's going to put her in a closet, blah, 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 and not inviting her to meetings. Maybe you crushed a bit on her career, blah, blah, blah." Not in crush her career, but they told him it was not good what he did. He called me after to apologize. He's a millionaire, has so many meetings and everything. He called me to apologize. And that's why I was like, some people are mean when it comes to, because they don't know better, but other people are willing to make it right. And so that's why it's important to have this dialogue and not to close the doors to like, "Oh, men are bad." No, we just like come from different upbringing. So even if we're in the same family, also we are like so different. We could be in the same movie theater and we would come out of this movie theater with another idea of what happened. Like, you will remember stuff that I don't remember. And this is the same. Like, we could be raised in the same family as 2 girls or 2 boys, and we still come out of this with 18 or 20 up in the life, out in the wild, and not having the same base. So I think it's really important to keep the discussion open and not to condemn all the people right away.
There's a lot to learn to people from that what you just said, and one of the important things to me that stands out, even though of course the initial reaction there, it's natural. It's like, how can you say that? Like, this is idiotic behavior. But then to have the humility and understanding to step back a bit and actually find empathy and compassion towards that person and its background, it's impressive that you can do that. And that's what a lot of people are actually lacking. And then when you completely reply to fight with another fight, then it continues the circle of fighting. But when you are able to take the step back, and also the other party has to be open for this communication that you mentioned, and for the ready to be educated. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or 75 years old or anything in between, you're still able to learn. And like, as long as you can just understand to treat people with kindness, it has to be the way. And
I mean,
what?
Sorry, I'm not perfect. I have my moments where I'm like, I still hold grudges. I still,
of course,
I can be angry for so long. But I think you're right. It's the fact that you stay open to learn. I know where I can be toxic, and I'm trying to correct that. For example, I think we all have toxic traits, and
Definitely.
not the toxic traits in a funny way. Oh, my toxic trait is to buy so much wine. No, the toxic traits where you do bad to other people without wanting to do it. We all have it, and I think as long as you're open to change, to be open to critics. I mean, I get offended sometimes when a friend tells me like, "Oh, you messed up big times here." And I'm like, the first reaction is like to justify yourself and say, no. And I wanted to do this and you misunderstood. No, if the person is offended at that time, it's not even, you don't have to justify yourself because you offended that person. Just apologize and try to understand why they felt offended and try to not do it again. It's a compromise because at some point you have to compromise in a way of your own being. But at some point you have to ask yourself, if I offend people with the same behavior, then at some point it's not compromising who you are, but more you should change something if you don't want to offend people. So it's always a fine line.
And what we know about neuroplasticity is that we can change if we put our minds to it, and that's it's important message. I think so.
Yeah, you're right with the neuroplasticity. I see it with myself, how I talk to myself now, because I've read so much about be careful of what words comes out of your mouth when you talk about yourself.
Yeah.
And I used to be more aware when my friends are like, "Oh, I'm so stupid." Like, "No, don't say that. Don't say that. You put that in the universe. Don't say that." And now I have friends doing the same with me. And now sometimes when I catch myself doing this, I'm like, no. you're smart, blah, blah, blah. And I have my set of affirmations.
Yeah, it's powerful mechanism. And also to recognize and not deny the fact that all of us have this some sort of evil inside of us. It can
Yeah.
be super hidden or it can be on the surfaces, but all of us has that. And if you deny the fact that you would have it, I think you're a little bit caged somehow, or you lack understanding in some level. But when you're able to acknowledge that it's part of you as well. And when it comes to
Yeah.
this positive affirmations and such, I remember when it comes to meditation, like some time back, I recently wrote about it in my newsletter as well. And I was looking at myself in a mirror when I already got familiar with meditation. And I just wanted to stare myself into the eyes and see if I can get meditative through that. And what I experienced from that is that your face starts to dissolve in some sort of way when you just stare into I was staring at my right, I think, and just keep there going for 10 minutes and try to breathe and calm down and try to look into your eyes and in a way that you also affirm compassion, empathy, kind thoughts to yourself. Like sometimes it can sound ridiculous, like, you're strong, you're handsome, you're capable, you can do whatever it may be, but it will empower you in a way. Later on, I was Googling it, and I didn't know if this is a concept, but there's then some famous TED talk about it called mirror meditation. And apparently there's a book written about it that I haven't read, but there's research when it comes to that. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you give this empathy and compassion towards yourself, you will start to feel better. You will become more self-aware. You're less anxious, less depressed, because you start to love yourself in a different way that you weren't able to spot those traits of you before.
I need to do
Also,
that. Sorry.
yeah,
I
no, it's
Go
it's an
ahead.
interesting concept. And some people also, they found when it comes to like body positivity, for example, if they
Mhm.
struggle, then they just stare at their body like for 1 week every day for 10 minutes, and eventually they start to find the words of kindness towards themselves, and it's something changes in your mind. But what I also want to learn from you is that we've talked about some of the bad examples, but who would be some people that you look up to, whether it's a public figure or someone in your inner circle who you can learn from or have learned a lot from, and whose message need to be heard more?
Well, except my former boss is someone I admire, but I have in my inner circle one of my best friends, Guillaume. I have two Guillaume in my life. I have one that is one of my best friends, and one that know from my commenting on his Instagram and everything that I exist, but So I have Guillaume is so one of my best friends. He is an entrepreneur. He's always been, and I loved it because he was the reason why I got more confident in myself. I'm not sure he does know it, except maybe he has seen the TikTok where I talk about it, but I've never told him directly like this. But when I was one night, I was a bit struggling. I was a bit confused. Can I do it with my business or not? And I was like, and he is so successful. I was like, he's so successful. He's launched his agency 2 years ago, and now he's like, wow, overnight success, overnight success. But then I don't know why I landed on his about page. He has a page where all what he's done since the last 10, 15 years. And then I realized, yeah, no, he's not an overnight success. His overnight success has lasted for the last 10 years because he's built so many
Mm.
companies that failed, that didn't pick up, to finally come at this moment where he's in his life where it works. But each station that he did before led him to that point. And that's why I often say you have to detach from your idea or from your outcome, because you don't know where it's going to lead you if you stay so close-minded about it. So that's one person. And then there is Guillaume Moubesh. I'm sure you know him from LinkedIn. He's
Yeah.
an entrepreneur in France. This guy Sometimes I get goosebumps when I listen to him, or I'm a very emotional person, so I can also cry very easily because I'm very sensitive at the moment. But sometimes he says stuff, and he would be the guy, if I was 100% not sure that I would never work for someone else, he's the guy I would love to work for, because he is, you never know someone really from podcasts or YouTube's. People show themselves as they want to be seen. But I don't know. I like we said before, the energy. I feel this kindness, and he's genuinely kind. And he's a boss to, I think, 30 or more people. And he's still kind. He's became a millionaire. He built this empire, and he looks like a little boy sometimes when he's so happy, like a little kid before Christmas. This is how I see him. And I think more people should take example from this guy. More people should look at him and think, I want to have my company led like he leads his company. For me, and I know I don't have enough woman examples. That's also a reason why I'm doing my business. I want more women to be an example for little girls. Like a lot of my mentors, unknown, they don't know that they are my mentors, are men, and he is one of them. I look up to this guy. Like every time he shows up on my feed, I'm like, what is the message today? And even if it's messages I hear from someone else or something, it hits different. I'm a bit of a fan. The day he added me on LinkedIn, I was like, oh my God. And I called, my friends were like, you don't know what happened. My friends are not on LinkedIn. They were like, who is this guy? And I was like, you don't imagine who is that?
Yeah, that's, but we all have people we look up to, and it's, we can learn tons. And as you said, like, it doesn't matter, even though sometimes it's not their own words, but if they quote someone, for example, it's something that they appreciate, and most likely you're going to appreciate it too, because the mindset is already there, so you can learn it that way. And
yeah, exactly.
I want to be conscious of the time, so we touched upon the topic of LinkedIn as well, and I know you're active on there, and that's where I spotted you as well. But what are the other important platforms for you to promote your business? You mentioned TikTok, and what's the role of LinkedIn in this personal
So I
branding
used
or
to,
business branding?
yeah, I used to be on TikTok because last year I was like, okay, I need to get my business going. I wanted to have it fast, as everybody who is online and think they can make a business up and have a business up and running in 6 months, like a successful business. So I decided, okay, TikTok is the platform to go. I want to help in my program where I help women to build their business, there is a huge part of content strategy, content creation, which platform to grow on. And so I wanted to test TikTok because I don't want to talk about something I don't know. So I decided to go on TikTok. And for 3 months before my business was officially launched, I started building the community there. But I got a content burnout after 3 months, because I was posting 3 to 5 days a day. I was only doing TikTok. I lost so many times to put the foundations. Everything I'm teaching now, it's learnings from that. I was not setting up the foundations. I was just doing TikTok or LinkedIn are just an element of your strategy. It's not the strategy. So you have to, you focus on that, but create your systems in a way that it doesn't take up the whole time during the whole week, and then you don't have the time to do anything else. So I stopped TikTok in August, and I started LinkedIn in November because of Matt Baker. I don't know how I say his name right, but he was making it look so easy and so simple that I was like, oh, okay, I like writing. I'm just gonna go back to writing because it comes easier for me to create content that way. I love taking videos. I actually do it for my freelancing, but I needed to be conscious about the time I have, because I don't have so many times, because I have to daycare, blah, 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 my kid. And I don't like to work when my kid is there, because I want to be a conscious mom and mindful mom and be there when he's there. So I try to not work when he's there. And so I had to think, okay, I'm going to switch to LinkedIn first and see how it goes. And at that time, it's like Mel Robbins always talk about the IRS. When you start thinking about something, you see it everywhere. So all of a sudden, I was only seeing posts with LinkedIn is the future. LinkedIn is the place to be. LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And I started building the brands there. And for now, the role that is, I'm really only on LinkedIn. I'm considering going back to TikTok too. Alex Hormozy was contagious. I saw a YouTube video and he was like, yeah, you have to, if you want more outcome, you have to put more input. And I was like, okay, what can I do that I can repurpose easily? And then it's my LinkedIn. I can do a script out of it and then I can repost it on TikTok and on Reels. And LinkedIn is going to stay my main platform where I engage in everything. And on TikTok and as Instagram, I'm just going to post and ghost. So that's the plan.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I think LinkedIn is a good point to create your personal brand. I'm just at the beginning. I wouldn't say I know everything about it. I'm starting to see stuff that works, but I'm still learning. But I think it's a good place to grow your business. If you have a business, it's a good place because it's a business platform at first. So.
Definitely so. And also Mr. Beast, this famous YouTuber, probably the biggest YouTuber at the moment, he was explaining the same thing, that you can use the same content on basically every platform, even the same content. Like you don't necessarily, if it's correct way, you can use that in multiple different platforms just like that. And even better if you can use a little bit of time to optimize it for each platform, but it's not necessary these days, and you can get your message out there in multiple different channels. And one thing that I still wanted to connect with LinkedIn is that because you have this wine background, and like when I know some people prefer to write when they have a glass of whiskey or glass of wine in their hands. Artists are famous for that. So what would be the wine pairing that you would say when it comes to writing LinkedIn posts?
It depends what I'm writing. When I'm doing inspirational posts, like at the moment, I don't drink anymore because I'm too tired. And so if I drink, I don't sleep well, blah, blah, blah. Even if it's 1 or 2 glasses of wine, it's never one or two glasses of wine when I start because I only drink wine that I love. So it's easy to have the bottle if I start, and I can do that alone and I don't notice it because I'm writing. And I would suggest when you write inspirational posts that are more about my background as a single mom, blah, 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 then I'm going to drink. I don't drink the Brunello di Montalcino because it's a bit more expensive, but there is the little brother or sister of the Brunello is the Rosso di Montalcino. It's a very heavy wine, red wine, bold, heavy red wine that has been in barrique. And also, I love Bordeaux. My favorite is Saint-Emilion Grand Cru from Chateau Mango. It's my favorite. I bought 18 bottles. That's why I hope I'm not quitting wine for good, but alcohol for good, because I bought 18 bottles of it at the birth of my son from this vintage. And I'm just, when he's turning 5, I can already test one, but then it's going to grow with him because I have, this fridge that are like cellar that you can have in your apartment. I have one wine fridge. And so it's getting old in there. And so that's one would be one. And then if I'm more into the educational post that I write in like 5-10 minutes, I would drink maybe a Loire wine, Cabernet Franc, Anjou Village. So nice, really nice wine with 100%
so we're talking
Cabernet
about
Franc.
French.
But I only drink red wine and mostly red French wines. Yeah. And bubbles is more, I don't drink bubbles when I write. It's more something I share with people.
But also when it comes to famous writers, I don't know which wine they were drinking, but I connect red wine to that always. Like I cannot picture like super fucked up writer in its own corner, dark corner with the smoky room and everything, having a glass of white wine or something or sparkling wine. No, it's always red
with
wine.
A little white Riesling or something.
Yeah, it doesn't work
I can't
like
imagine
that.
either. No, I also
Gotcha.
always thought I wanted to be a writer. I used to want to be a writer. I still want to write a book. And I always pictured myself in front of this window in the mountains with my glass of red wine, my computer, and the mountains.
That's it.
So
That's it.
always the red
It's a
wine.
beautiful view.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful view. I two last questions to you. Feel free to answer how short or long that you feel like it. But one thing that I want to understand, because you have an interesting journey up to this point. But is there something, if you look back 10 years ago, 10 years ago from this moment, is there something that you think completely differently when it comes to either personal life or business wise that you thought 10 years ago that that you completely changed your mind about topic? Does anything come to your mind?
Mm, I would say, like, the first that comes to my mind would be I believed that we all have the same 24 hours, but it's not true. Every guru is going to say, you all have the same 24 hours, and Bill Gates does that, so you have the same 24 hours. Then Bill Gates says, no. Bill Gates has the mean, and I don't know how he lives because I haven't done my research on him, but some people who, for example, have more money because they are already at the level you want to be, they can, I don't say they can have the nannies, they can have the cook, they can have someone to take your grocery, they can have the team behind them. Yeah, of course, I have 24 hours. We all have 24 hours, but I have to do my laundry myself. I have to clean my house myself because for now, don't prioritize this in my budget. So, and people don't realize how much of pressure it puts on people, on others who are they're trying their best to get there where they want to be, but they are doing the best they can at where they are. And you don't have the same 24 hours. One of my former bosses is so rich that when he goes with his kids in his castle of his family, yeah, someone is taking care of the kids. So yeah, he has time to read philosophy and psychology stuffs and like iterate and learn about stuff. And other people don't have this time. So I think it's good to put that again into perspective. Of course, some people could do more. If you really want to go somewhere in your life, at some point, it's a choice. Every time you're choosing for something, you're choosing against something else. So yeah, you could go partying or you could stay in. And that is your time. But all the other stuff that are duties or obligations that you have in life, from the time you have it available for yourself, yeah, then you can be disciplined. Yeah, you can build habits to go further, faster. But we don't have the same 24 hours. Yeah, I think it's the only thing I would say.
Okay,
And
that's
yeah,
interesting.
because I think it's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Okay, and that's also reminds me of the importance of not using too much time on comparing ourselves to others. Like if we have our own
But
situation, we
comparing
can improve.
yourself, I think comparing yourself is good if it keeps you inspired, but it's
Yeah,
not good when it starts getting to you. So, because
yeah.
everybody's like,
If
compare yourself just to yourself. I say it also, but you can also compare yourself to others. I love to compare myself to others. I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
oh,
it's
he's
yeah, it can.
there. I want to be
It,
there too. How did he do that?
yeah, I think it's the way you start comparing makes a difference. If you get inspired from it, sure, do that. But if it's something like, why can't I have what this person has, and why is his or her life better? Then it becomes useless, because
Yeah.
then it's not an
Yeah.
inspiration anymore. Then it's uh, I don't know what would be the word, lack of self responsibility, self awareness, whatever it may be. But it can vary
Yeah.
on how you would do that. And I want to close it off with I know you are a reader as well and you like books. So would like if I would ask what would be one book that everybody should read in the high school age that you could give this to school, and what would be one book that you would put on the bookshelf for everybody
One
to read?
book.
It doesn't have to be the
Ooh.
best book you've ever read, but something that's
No, but
inspired you and you
one
think
that
finds benefit.
changed me and changed a lot of how I go through life is, I don't see it. It's The Big Five for Life. The Big Five for Life from, I think, John
Okay.
Strzelecki. I don't know if I say his name correctly. This is one
I don't
book.
know
I
this book.
opened it. I really love it. It's good for leadership also when you're in a leadership position. It's a book that I read it. I remember it was one of the first break I took when I got my baby a few months after. The first time could take a bath. And I took this book and I couldn't stop reading it. The baby is going to wake up in the night, but you're like reading this book because you have to finish it. And it took me less than 24 hours to read it, like cover to cover. It's a little book and it's so good how he's written it in a kind of story and so many lessons in it. It makes you think about your own life. I really love this book. And it's one book, after I read it, I bought all the stock on Amazon that was available at that time. And it's something I offered. I offered the last one this year, I think. Now I have to do it again.
I will look it up, definitely. Before we finish, is there something... Sure, I will. And before we finish, is there something that you still want to bring up, or if you can share where people can find you?
No, I think I already talked so much, but yeah,
it was all
you
covered.
can't find. But yeah, though maybe I would say go to your own rhythm in life. I've compared myself. I know we talked about it before, but I was comparing myself in a bad way to like these people are so far away, so far in their life. And now that I live by this universe, like this faith in the universe that I said everything happens at the right moment for me. So now I'm way more detached, and this is something, whatever the faith you have, I think everything happens for a reason, because you have some learnings to do, or because even I don't want to spread toxic positivity. Like you have to see the good. And even when your father died, like, I was so devastated when my father died. No, I want to say that at some point you have some learnings to do that are triggered by this kind of events. And even if in that moment you can see it, you're going to see it. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. But take your time. Take your time and go fast. I don't know, it's a bit contradictory, but do the much you can when you can, because life is too short. Yeah. And
well
you
said.
can find me on Instagram. I have a handle, but I don't post yet. Bonjour Mondays, because the other one is my private one. And then my LinkedIn, Oriane Dinse. And TikTok is also Bonjour Mondays. And I just got Twitter. I haven't started yet, but I'm also thinking about putting my LinkedIn on it. Also posting and ghosting. But yeah, Bonjour Mondays all the time.
Okay. Yeah, you can definitely repurpose all the written content on Twitter. I haven't got a hold of it yet, but it's...
Me neither.
It's going through a lot of changes after Elon Musk took over. So we'll see where it leads.
I'm curious to see how it's going to go.
Yeah. But thanks a lot, Oriane. And
thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon.
It was really nice talking to you.
Thanks for your time. You too.